Madhwacharya did not create Madhwa philosophy. Madhwacharya is a pravartaka. That means the Madhwa philosophy already existed. One of the things that Madhwacharya saw was that the greatest harm, distortion of the interpretations was happening by people who had taken sannyasa diksha. Since they took the sannyasa diksha, it is called chaturtashami. That means they are the highest in the gradation. Once they preach something, it becomes the gospel truth. So if you want to counter it, you also have to be, and you have that spiritual position. So he decided to take the sannyasa diksha.
Hi, welcome to KC Talks. In the series of podcasts on Madhwacharya that we are doing with Shri Sundarji, we have understood from the last podcast that Vedas are very important and essential to understand Lord. That is the reason he raised a topic called as Veda Apaurushetva. Now that Vedas Pramana is established, let us understand deep into what Madhwacharya has done. Hare Srinivasa.
Hare Srinivasa, Acharya Pavanosmakam, Acharyani cha Bharati, Devo Narayana Sheshaha, Devi Mangala Devata. So I think you've set a very good foundation to what we want to discuss now.
Yes, so as a person, as a common audience, nobody knows. But in a small colloquial Telugu language or Kannada language, we say, ये क्या वेद है क्या बदलने के लिए? मतलब that very language denotes that you can't change Vedas.
Yes.
But nobody understands. It's just a colloquial format, but nobody understands the significance of Vedas in today's world, at least. I'm not speaking about our grandfather's generation, but in our generation. But a language conveys that Vedas are very important. So now that we understood, that is a foundation on which now we are understanding Madhwacharya. So please throw some light on what Madhwacharya's works are, what Madhwacharya's life is all about.
Yes. So I think before we get into his works, I think it's good to look at his life. So as we looked at in the previous episodes, the objective of Madhwacharya was to really reset the meanings and the purport of all the Vedas and the Puranas. That is why Lord Vayu took incarnation. And that incarnation happened in this, what we now know as the city of Udupi. So as we know, Udupi is a temple town in the Dakshina Kannada region. Now Udupi is of course a separate district by itself. So in south of India, there is the state of Karnataka and there is a district in that called Udupi. That is where Shri Madhwacharya was born. So his parents, Madhyageha Bhatta is his father's name. Madhyageha Bhatta. That means a person. Bhatta means a person, a scholar. So he was given that title of a scholar because he could recite the Bhagavata and give the meaning of the Bhagavata and other Puranas very well. He is quite a scholarly person, and his mother is Vedavati. So both of them, he was born to them. And the story of Shri Madhwacharya actually starts in Udupi itself.
Okay.
So what if you have seen the Udupi town, there is a lovely temple of Anateshwar or Anantasana, which is a temple opposite to what we now has the main Udupi Krishna temple.
Diagonally opposite to the Udupi Krishna temple.
Yes.
It is a Shiva temple, right?
No, it is a Vishnu temple.
Okay.
So there is a Shiva temple called the Chandramaulishwara temple.
That
right
is
opposite.
Like this. On this side there is Chandramaulishwara temple.
Yes.
But even as a person who is not a Kannadiga or a person who is from North India, when they see Ananteshwara temple, it is also in Lingakara.
It is Lingakara. Yes.
So we don't understand that, for us Lingakara is Shiva.
Shiva, correct. No, that is the common notion as well. If you look at Linga is just a external body or the structure. Inside that, any deity can be consecrated, and the god, for things which have existed forever, the presence of the respective god is there in it, from time immemorial.
Okay.
So that form is very, very popular with Lord Shiva. That's why the Linga, it is always understood it is in that form. In South Kannada district, in that whole place itself, you will find many temples where Lord Narayana and Lord Shiva have both have taken incarnation in the form of Linga. The Shankarnarayana temple is there, not very far from Udupi. So this format is, this form of God is very common.
Hmm.
So Lord Ananteshwara is there. That Lord Ananteshwara or Ananta Padmanabha is actually the family deity of Shri Madhwacharya's family. So Madhyageya Bhatta and all of his wife would come every day from a place called Pajaka. Pajaka is about 14 kilometers from Udupi.
Okay.
So those days they would come and visit the temple, and they would go back to their house Pajaka on a fairly regular basis. And it is said that they didn't have children, and they wanted to beget a child. So once they visited the Ananteshwara temple, and they were praying to the god, and it was a day on which there was an event, a festival happening. And so a very strange incident actually happened. There was a person who was slightly, mentally retarded kind of a person. He had some disability. He was very incoherent. He could hardly speak. He could not even walk properly. So some people were laughing at him. Some people were pitying him, and he was just sitting there. Now, opposite to the temple, the Ananteshwara temple, there is a Garuda Stamba. So that itself is an indication that it's a Vishnu temple.
Yes.
If you see a Garuda Stamba in front of a temple, that it's a sign that it's a Vishnu temple.
Okay.
If it is a Nandikeshwara or Nandi, then it is a Shiva temple.
So Ananteshwara means Ananta Padmanabha
Ananta
Swami,
Padmanabha
the
Swami.
same Lord that we see in Thiruvananthapuram.
Thiruvananthapuram, yes.
So
It's
that's
the
a
same
big
place.
that's a big deity. Now here it is a smaller deity.
Smaller in the form of a
In the
Linga.
form of
There
a
you
Linga.
can see the Lord sleeping like it is in Sri
For a normal audience, now it is clear that Ananteshwara means it is an Ishvara which is Ananta, and he is Vishnu.
Correct.
Very nice.
Correct.
So the story.
So the temple is been there since the Puranic times. If you have been there to the temple, you would have seen. It is a stone temple, and it has got these slabs of stone which have been put like this. Each slab is extremely heavy. So it is said that the Pandavas, Bhima and Arjuna, built the temple in the Puranic times.
Oh.
That is the history of the temple. Even now, the moment you look at it, you can make out that the temple is very old, because the stones have all got a little worn out. You can see because of the rains and other things. It really looks very old.
Okay.
So the temple, that Garuda Stamba is there, and on top of that pillar, Garuda Stamba is a pillar. So on that stone pillar, this person who was till now not able to even walk, he somehow climbs on top of that pillar, and he announces that something very special is going to happen very soon, and Lord Vayu is going to be born in that region, in that pranta. And he dances in a very classical format, with perfect steps and perfect music and so on. So which surprises everybody, because till very recently we could not even walk. So how did he learn? So it is, whenever we see in the Puranic verses, whenever we see that there is something like this happening, that means it's Lord himself who has gone into the body and the soul of some individual, and he is giving a very important message.
Okay.
So both Madhyageha Bhatta and Vedavati then take up a very, very tough ritual of what is called Ksheeravrata. That means you early in the morning you take a bath, you offer your prayers and offer one glass of milk to the god, and you will drink that one glass of milk for the whole day and nothing else. So they did this for 12 years before Madhwacharya was born. So on an auspicious day, which coincides with the Vijay Dashami day, so Madhwacharya was born in this place, in this house of Pajaka. Even on that day, the important thing for us to remember is that Madhyageha Bhatta had gone to Udupi temple to recite this Bhagavatam, and he was returning home. So even on the day when it was expected that his wife will deliver a child, he still did not forsake his spiritual activities. He went on, he was doing that, and then when he was on his way back to go to his house, somebody came and told him that he was blessed with a son. And everybody who saw the child were absolutely convinced that this is a divine child, because it had a resplendence and a brightness of which was of a very different order, and that's the whole story of his birth. He was named Vasudeva. That is his name as a child that was given. Of course, after that, several spiritual, and events which were very of a divine nature happened in that place, and like Madhwacharya actually, um, as a very young child, lifted a very very heavy stone and placed it as a lid on a pot, and several things like this. We learn. The good news, Krishna, is that the house in which he was born, Shri Madhwacharya was born, it is in Pajaka, and that house is intact. That house has been preserved since the 12th century
Okay.
when he was born, and maybe the house is even older than that. His parents were staying there, and of course it has been renovated a little bit to give it strength, and so on. So all that you want, if you want to see about his childhood, it is intact. The whole house is kept like the way it was at that point in time. So, and then Madhwacharya grew up, and the next stage of his life sort of evolves.
As a small boy, he has shown a lot of miracles.
Yes. He showed one thing is that he physical prowess, and also the ability to analyze and think. In fact, one of his teachers would always find that he's very inattentive in class. So he would ask him, "Why are you so inattentive?" He says, "Whatever you're teaching me, I know it already." So the teacher even challenges him that I will call, if that is the case, why don't you learn something that is meant for the next class? So he said, I know that also. So he asked him to recite many things which were actually to be covered later, and Madhwacharya recites it seamlessly. Even as in the field of sports, he excels everybody because he's able to beat even the boys who are much older to him in wrestling and running and all the other sports activities. And it was very evident to everybody that he is indeed somebody who has very divine qualities. It was not just about excellence.
He was considered as a superhuman boy.
Yes, those signs were very evident. I sort of, the way I look at it is, when there is a sunrise happening, even before the sun comes out, the brightness hits the eastern sector, eastern side of the world. And slowly it starts to grow. So I think Madhwacharya showed his, his brilliance, his prowess, even at a very young age.
Very nice.
Those miracles, are seen. There's one story that happened, and that's very relevant, I think, to all of us. So the family itself was not a very rich family. So they lived in some kind of a poverty. So once Madhwacharya's father comes home and he's about to go in to have lunch, but he would have borrowed money from somebody, and that creditor, his name is Karkashetty. He comes home to ask him to return the money, which unfortunately he is not able to do at that point in time. So he says, still I have paid this gentleman, I will not be able to eat my food. So he's waiting outside the house and thinking what he has to do. At that time, Madhwacharya goes, and there's a tamarind tree at the backyard of his house. So he goes and picks up a fistful of those tamarind seeds, and he gives it to Karkashetty. And he says, look, these are tamarind seeds, but if you go and keep it in the one part of the house, tomorrow you will get back your wealth. So the Karkashetty is a little amused, but looking at the resplendence on his face, he says, maybe this child is somebody divine, so he's giving me something. Let me take it with full faith. And next day it turns into gold, returning the money manyfold than what he had actually borrowed. So the interesting thing is, Karkashetty's family also continues to this day. Their house is behind Madhwacharya's Bhajaka's house, a little away. You can see their house.
Okay.
Of course, now the family has grown and they've gone into, so many of them have settled in other cities. But that house and the some people even stay there today. I think the learning for all of us is, he gave those tamarind seeds that became Suvarna. Suvarna is gold. But there's another meaning for Suvarna. Varna is words. Suvarna is great words. So Madhvacharya gave him tamarind seeds and that became Suvarna. But to us, he has given Suvarna itself,
Words.
which is nothing but his granthas.
His granthas.
His granthas and philosophy.
So, I have some basic doubts, Sundarji. So, Madhvacharya was born in what family?
He's born in the Madhya Geha Bhatta. So that is that's a community. That's a Brahmin community, which is coming from the sect called the Shivalli Brahmins.
Okay.
So Shivalli Brahmins are one particular community in that part of
India,
Karnataka. Yeah. So they have certain rituals and they come from that community as such.
So till now, Shivalli Brahmins are there.
Yes.
So
all the Shivalli Brahmins are. It's a very large community even now.
All the South Canara has Shivalli Brahmins.
Yes, they are predominantly centered in that area. There are other sects also. It's not only.
So he is born in a Shivalli Brahmanas community.
Yes.
So his father was what? Because I'm asking these questions for a reason that Madhvacharya has established a Madhva Brahmin community after him.
Yes.
He was born in which community?
So the thing is, that is where we have to, draw the inferences correctly. See, Madhvacharya did not create Madhva philosophy. Madhvacharya is a pravartaka. That means the Madhva philosophy already existed. Dvaita philosophy existed before Madhvacharya. But because it had got distorted, the main purport of our philosophy is Madhva philosophy or the Dvaita philosophy. But that has got distorted because of the way it has been interpreted, the Puranas and the Vedas, etc. So he came to correct it. So he has done the job of that correction. He didn't create anything new.
Okay.
So Madhvaita philosophy existed before that. So his father was someone who was who had studied the Advaita philosophy and the Dvaita philosophy in the fragment that it existed at that point in time.
But Advaita was in a full swing at that time.
Yes.
So he was basically. I'm asking this question because Jesus was born to a Jewish family.
Yeah.
Post which Christianity comes, right?
Yes.
Post any Messiah only an ism comes.
Yes.
Or that particular sect comes.
Yes.
So with that mundane understanding, I'm trying to know that is Madhvacharya born to an Advaitian parents?
No. The answer is no, because even before Madhvacharya was born, as I said, different forms of philosophies coexisted.
So
but you are absolutely right. What had happened was Advaita at that point in time had a huge impact because before that, even their predecessors were Buddhists, and there are a lot of commonalities that we see in Buddhism and Advaita. In fact, Advaitis are in the Advaita philosophy is actually called Prachanna Bauddha.
Yes.
That means it's a modified form of Buddhism. And so it was. You are absolutely right. In the 12th century, the bandwidth, the spiritual bandwidth was completely taken over by Advaita. But that doesn't mean that other forms did not exist. They were in minority, and they were also. I think there is a struggle to put all this together in a format. Debate it with people with a logical sense, and then leave it to the people to make their judgments. Right? That was
so
needed
the other philosophies existed in an incognito mode.
Yes.
But he is born in so-called Advaita Brahmana community.
Yes.
Now, as a matter of information for me, I'm a little inquisitive in all these things.
Yes.
So Shivalli Brahmanas are technically Advaitians during that point of time. No,
it was a mix. Shivalli Brahmins had a mix of Advaitis and Dvaitis.
No, Dvaiti is something which is in an incognito mode because they did not know that there is something like this existing.
No, they knew. Except that they were not able to assert themselves till Madhvacharya came and relayed the whole piece.
Okay, for even more convenience.
Yeah.
Madhvacharya's father, what was he wearing? He was wearing a Tripundara?
No, he was wearing a mudra. Gopi Chandana mudra is what is said. So we don't have at least I am not aware of anywhere where it is categorically said what he was wearing. But it was believed from the general discussions that we've had, it appears that he was wearing Gopi Chandana.
So
as
Gopi
a
Chandana,
symbol.
wearing of Gopi Chandana was there among the Brahmana communities even
Yes.
prior to Madhvacharya?
Yes, of course. So if you go to any, for example, any Vaishnava temple, they were not, you look at a Lord, idol of Lord Krishna. That time they were not putting vibhuti to the Lord Krishna. They were using Gopi Chandana as a symbol of a Vaishnava symbol. So that existed all the time.
Very nice. And from a Brahmical point of view, as a part of information, he was born to what sect of Vedic Brahmin?
The Sumadhvija doesn't say it explicitly, as I know. Sorry, I'm not aware of that. You are talking about the which Veda?
Yes.
Yajur Veda, Rig Veda. So it doesn't explicitly say it anywhere. So I'm not aware of which Veda sect that he belonged
the Veda Shaka,
Veda
the
Shaka.
Sutra that
Yes.
he is born. Nothing is mentioned about it.
Nothing is mentioned. As I am aware, it is not mentioned. But I will investigate a little more and maybe share it with you in a subsequent podcast.
Just as a matter of information,
Yes.
so because we have different acharyas, some like Shankara was born to a Sama Shaka Brahmana, some Sutra, so like that. It was just an inquisitiveness for me.
Sure.
So maybe Madhwacharya has written Rig Bhashya, so I am just interpreting.
No, I mean the reason he wrote about commentary on Rig Veda is different. So we'll come to it when we talk about his works.
So he is born in a in a Brahmical family, and as a kid he has shown a lot of superhuman qualities.
Yes.
And he grew up like this.
Yes.
Then when did his Upanayana happen, and when was the Gurukula Vidyabhyasa started?
Yeah. So he took his Upanayana was performed when he was about 5 or 6 years of age, and he was sent to the teacher I was referring to, and the teacher tried his best to teach him, but again Madhwacharya clearly showed that whatever he knew as an incarnation of Lord
And the
Vayu,
teacher's name is Achyuta Praksha.
Achyuta Prakshacharya is his ashrama guru.
Okay.
So that is when he gives him the sanyasa. The name of the teacher is not
very much mentioned.
So
So Vedadhyayana he went to a teacher.
Yes. And everywhere he would always be correcting his teacher. So the first day he reads something, the Veda Suktas, he says, no, there are so many mistakes in the way it is being read. So he was always a bit of a pain point for the teacher, till they understood that he's not just a rubble raiser, but someone who is really a very gifted child, who's not meant to recite whatever, repeat whatever you just teach.
Yes.
He's not a rote learner.
Yeah.
And on the contrary, what he does, again a mythical, kind of a occurrence happens. His teacher's son has a major headache problem. Suddenly he would get a headache, something that is akin to the way people get migraine, and a terrible headache, and the child would barely be able to sort of sustain. So Madhwacharya would once blew in his ears, and it seems that he never got that headache after that. So that was his Guru Kanika to his guru by curing his son of this ailment.
Okay.
So I
that
think
is a Guru Dakshina that he has given.
That's a Guru Dakshina. And I think it is a big message to all of us that if we want to cure our headache, our philosophical and spiritual headaches, we have to, Madhwacharya has to blow in our ears. So in Kannada, if you say blowing into someone's ears, it's actually meaning speaking in his ears to influence him. So that is what Madhwacharya has done to all of us.
Very
we
nice.
just have to give that ear to it and listen to him
listen
patiently.
To what he has told.
Yes. If we want to get rid of our spiritual headache.
Ajnana.
Yes.
Very nice. So okay, so he learned his Vedadhyayana under a teacher, and then when is that he, what is his next part of life?
The next part of his life is actually Sanyasa Diksha Svikara.
What age did he take sannyasa?
He was 10 years old.
He took sannyasa at 10 years age?
Yes.
So parents had done Kshiravrata for 12 years, and then they get a baby and only one baby. Yeah. And why did they choose to give sannyasa to that boy?
So they didn't choose to. The boy was very clear. So one of the things that Madhwacharya saw was that the greatest harm in terms of distortion of these, the interpretations was happening by people who had taken sannyasa diksha. So since they took the sannyasa diksha, it is called chaturtashami. That means they are the highest in the gradation, and they can once they preach something, it becomes the gospel truth. So if you want to counter it, you also have to be someone who is able to counter it, and you have that spiritual position to be able to do that. So he decided to take the sannyasa diksha. So one day he went and told his parents that he wants to take sannyasa diksha. They of course refused to do that, to give that acceptance. And he went on asking again and again. The father finally got so annoyed and so tired of this that he said, and he prostrated in front of him, did that namaskaram to Vasudeva, telling him that if you do this and you go away, then I will be constrained to jump off a cliff and commit suicide. So at that time Madhwacharya asked him a question. You are doing namaskaram to me. When does a father do namaskaram to a son? There is only one circumstance. That is when he becomes a sannyasi. When somebody becomes a sannyasi, everybody other than his mother has to do namaskaram to the Swamiji, the sannyasi. So by doing this, you are actually according your acceptance that I should take up a sannyasa. And then he tells his parents that don't worry, you are also worried there will be no one to take care of you and you will not have children around. So you will have one more child. So they have one more boy after this, and who becomes later gets ordained as a sannyasi after both his parents pass away.
Madhwacharya has an younger brother.
Yes, he has got a younger brother. His name before he took sannyasa diksha is not known, but after he took the sannyasa diksha, his name is Vishnu Teertha. And we will see more about him when we talk about the Ashtamatas.
Okay.
So this is the story. Then
then his father agrees and he takes sannyasa.
Yes.
So a sannyasa, when he takes, he has to take it from another sannyasi.
Yes.
So that he has taken from an Advaita school, right?
He has taken it from Achyuta Prekshacharya. So Achyuta Prekshacharya is a person who was studying the Advaita philosophy. But he was not convinced. He was seeing some inherent contradiction, as Sumadvija clearly explains. And he is quite troubled with the fact that he is not able to understand and get convinced about whatever he was reading. It was not convincing to him. So every day he would study and he would compare it. He would get a lot of questions and he would not know whom to ask. So he would go to the Lord Anateshwar and pray there. So the place where the mutt of Achyuta Prekshacharya is, it's called the Bhandarikeri mutt. It's one of the other mutts in the Madhwa sampradaya today.
I have seen Bhandarikeri mutt in Udupi.
Yes.
That is an Advaita Mata.
No, that's Advaita Mata. Now it is
afterwards, but during that time it was an Advaita Mata.
Correct. And of course, the whole Udupi thing was not like the way it is today.
Yes.
Both in terms of construction and texture. So you had Achyuta Prekshacharya, who then ordains Madhwacharya as, so his name as Ashrama Nama is actually Ananda Teertha. So from Vasudeva it becomes Ananda Teertha.
Ananda Teertha. My question is, when you take a sannyasa from a particular sannyasi, so a Bharati will give Bharati title, a Teertha will give Teertha, a Saraswati will give Saraswati.
Right.
So what is Achyuta? Achyuta Pragya Teertha is his name, is it?
Yes, his name was Achyuta Prekshacharyaru. That is the Achyuta Prekshacharya. So it is Teertha is not mandatory for a sannyasi.
For sannyasi there is titles, some 10 titles are given to a sannyasi.
Acharya is also one of the titles that are given to, we say Madhwacharya, for example, Shankaracharya. We don't add Teertha there. So Achyuta Prekshacharya also.
But as a sannyasa namakarana, it is Ananda Teertha only.
Ananda Teertha, yes. He ordained it with that name. And I think that's a sign of things to come. So if you want to know what is the real fruit of studying Ananda Teertha's Shastra, it is there in his name. Ananda. You will get Ananda.
Very nice. So we have travelled from a boy becoming from Vasudeva to Ananda Teertha. No?
Right.
So now he has become a sannyasi
Correct.
at the age of 10.
Yes.
I have a normal doubt. So at the age of 10, what does a boy understand about life that he takes sannyasa?
A normal boy wouldn't.
Hmm.
But Vasudeva is different.
Hmm.
He is the incarnation of Lord Vayu.
Hmm.
And he comes with a very specific purpose. I think that's a sign of all great men. They're very clear about what is the purpose for which they're doing what they're doing. So he was clear that he has to take sannyasa diksha, and then he will be able to focus all his attention on the spiritual studies and spiritual debates, spiritual works, and travel, and be able to connect with people and see what is going on in their mind. Have those debates with several scholars all over the country, which he did twice. He traveled all over India. Those days there was no Ola, Uber, Make My Trip, or any other thing where you can just book a ticket and land up in any part of the country. You have to travel everything by road.
As a boy, when you took that sannyasa, he started traveling then, or he studied for some more time?
Sometime, maybe I think from, again, these are not very specific things which are mentioned, but something like 2-3 years he did study under Achyuta Prekshacharya. So when Achyuta Prekshacharya ordained Ananda Teertha, Vasudeva as Ananda Teertha, from day one, what he observed was Ananda Teertha was someone who was performing all the rituals of a sannyasi very, very well from day one. And he actually had to correct, Achyuta Prekshacharya had to correct his own ways in which he was performing the rituals after seeing Ananda Teertha.
Okay.
Because again, showing that this somebody who has come in the form of his disciple is actually will become his guru. So the day he sees all this and he's convinced that, I think finally I have found someone who can probably answer my questions. He goes back to Anateshwar and he thanks him, saying that for all these years of prayer that I have done, you finally sent me my guru in the form of my disciple.
He has got Uttama Shishya.
Uttama Shishya, and what more can one ask for? Because the teachings can come from anybody in any form, but as long as they help us, elevate our spiritual levels, I think it is welcome.
Wonderful. So now he started traveling.
Yes.
Probably.
So before that, he studied, and in one of the classes, Achyuta Prekshacharya was reciting the 5th canto of Bhagavata. The Panchama Skanda is like Gadya and Padya both put together. So it's very difficult to learn something by rote, by memory, if something isn't double in both the forms. So he was reciting it, and Madhwacharya went on correcting that no, this whatever you are reading itself is wrong. So Achyuta Prekshacharya then said, if you know it correctly, why don't you recite it? And out of the blue, Madhwacharya just started reciting the whole Panchama Skanda of Bhagavata, which is very difficult. Now, what is the challenge in Bhagavata? It is considered as a scholar's war field. That means the maximum number of questions and debates can happen in Bhagavata. So, if you have excelled or understood Bhagavata really well, that means, that's a sign of a very superior scholarship. Though it seems to be a set of stories, the interpretation of that and the ability to understand the larger message that Bhagavata and its stories are giving is always is considered a very precious scholarly and spiritual lesson in your life. So he did that, and so Achyuta Prekshacharya asked him, where did you learn all this? So Madhwacharya says, I learnt it in my previous birth. And he recites it. And slowly and steadily, it was very clear to Achyuta Prekshacharya that the student that he has is no ordinary student. And very soon he requests his guru that he would like to go and meet Lord Narayana and Lord Vedavyasa in Badri. So and he should start traveling. So that's at a fairly young age he starts to travel, and he goes to Uttara Badri. And that is when he writes his first book at the age of 20. So from 10 to 20, all this and some other incidents also have happened in between. He goes and he offers the Gita Bhashya. This is his first writing to Lord Vedavyasa himself. Now, this is another aspect of Madhva philosophy, where if you are writing a text or a commentary on any book, the person who wrote the original book has to accept it.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it is not a valid, book. For example, you're writing a, you're writing a biography on a great individual. That person turns around and says, "No, this is not what happened in my life." It'll just fall flat.
It's a fox.
It's a figment of somebody's imagination. So, like that, this is more than a biographical text because it's a spiritual text. So, he wrote the Gita Bhashya, and I must say, I had the privilege of learning it from a great guru, Dr. Srinidhi Pyati, from the Vyasa Teertha, who is the principal of Vyasa Teertha Vidyapitha in Mysore. And we had the privilege of learning this along with Gita Tatparya for almost 2.5 years.
Great.
And the interpretation of Gita by Madhwacharya and Gita Bhashya, I think is just, you have to study it to believe it. So when he offered it to Vedavyasa, the first shloka he had written as Gitartha Vakshami Shaktitaha. That means I have explained the meaning of Gita to the best of my ability. So Vedavyasa says it's a great book, but that Leshataha, the Shaktitaha, you take it off and put it as Leshataha.
What does that mean?
Leshataha means you have explained only a little bit of what your understanding is. Your understanding of the Gita is much profound, but there's no point in writing something which nobody will understand. So you've done it keeping in mind your audiences. So take off that Shaktitaha and call it Leshataha.
Wonderful, Sundarji. So we have now understood a transformation of a boy whose name is Vasudeva to Ananda Teertha, and then finally becoming sannyasi, and writing his first book, which is the commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and offering it to Vedavyasa, who is personally present even today in Bhadrika Ashrama.
Right.
So in the next podcast, I would like you to explain me from Ananda Teertha, how did he become Madhwacharya?
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your beautiful insight and wonderful story.
Thank you.
Hare Srinivasa.